Hi everyone! In this episode, we will continue with the character creation for the Unreal Marketplace. This week I have worked on the hair as hair cards, and I have started the fun work of making the low poly version. So let's get started! I have always had problems making realistic hair for video games using hair cards, so this time I wanted to do a little different approach. First, I made a very rough sculpt to define the volume, shape and flow of the hair. Once the pin shape was defined, I made a very simple retopology. For the hair, I used the hair tool add-on. I bought it in 2018 and since then I have not only been able to enjoy the free updates, but also the incredible improvements that the author has been introducing. It is one of the best add-ons for Blender. I'll leave the link in the description in case you are interested. The add-on allows you to create hair cards in many ways, but for long hair I think creating curves from geometry is the best. For this method, we only need quad geometry and define a sharp edge that defines where the hair starts and where it flows. On the other hand, I divide the hair into three main shapes. The reason for this division is because the hair flows differently and it's easier to get the desired shapes by dividing the geometry. As I create the different divisions, I start testing to see if the hair looks good. I think it's important to check often how the hair looks in real time to be able to address any problems, especially overlap. To make realistic hair, you have to create many layers. It's easy to lose the overview by concentrating on working layer by layer until the problems appear and we don't know where they come from. So I recommend checking constantly how the hair looks in the engine. It's funny, but if in Blender looks very different from Marmoset or Unreal, being these last two more similar. So I don't let myself be fooled by how it looks in Blender and I check in Marmoset constantly. I like to use Marmoset for this kind of work because it automatically updates the meshes. So when I make a change in Blender, it updates it directly, saving me a lot of time between import and export. For the final test, I use Unreal, which is where the model will be used in the last place. Maybe I will make a detailed tutorial of my workflow, since for me it has always been a struggle, especially the placement of the hair cards. And maybe my more automatic technique with the use of modifiers can help other artists. I would appreciate it if you could leave in the comments if you would be interested in such a tutorial. After many hours of trial and error, I've reached a point where I'm quite happy with the result. So I decided to leave it for now and concentrate on other parts. One of the most boring things in my opinion in 3D is the part of creating the low poly version. I use different methods depending on the model. For models made in Marvelous Designer, I follow the GimToots method. I'll leave a link to his tutorial in the description. Basically, it uses the 2D garment to do the retopology, which is easier and allows us to create a cleaner topology. The method is very clever. The truth is that some amazing people come up with very impressive solutions. I recommend you to take a look at it. For other models that are going to have minimal or no deformation like accessories or rigid models, I use the quad remesher. This is a paid add-on, but the amount of time it saves is well worth it. The link will be below in the description. The add-on makes the retopology of any model in quads given a budget of polygons. The operation usually does not take more than a few seconds. Depending on the model, can create edge loops in spiral, but normally the results are more than satisfactory. Another method that I use very often is to use a basic geometry with good topology and create a high poly version using either subdivision or multi-resolution modifiers. The advantage of this method, although it takes a little bit more time in the beginning, is that the low and the high poly come out from the same model, which saves me a lot of time when doing the retopology. In my case, my model has a lot of accessories, so this step took me a lot of time. Finally, I have started the UV unwrapping process. This is another part that is usually quite long. My process consists of separating the different models into the materials I'm going to use. I tried to use as few materials as possible for the best balance between the performance and quality of the textures. For the unwrap, I use the UV Packmaster. It's another paid add-on, but worth every dollar. It optimizes all the available space of the UVs, giving the maximum possible resolution to the textures of the model. It also has many different options to get the most out of the space you have. I'll leave the link in the description in case you are interested. Similar to the hair, I constantly check in Marmoset if I have errors in my UVs when baking the maps. All these checks are an investment of time, but it assures that all my models have good UVs and good maps, which for me is very important for the next phase, the texturing. So what's next? This week I will finish with unwrapping and possibly finish with the texturing. So the model will be very soon available for rigging and to pass the Unreal Marketplace review process. But we will see all of this next week. Until then, thank you very much for watching and have a great week.